So, folks, we gotta talk about Elissa Slotkin because she is somebody who has been her name has been getting thrown around as someone potentially throwing their hat into the ring for 2028, and I just gotta say, I don't think she has the juice to cook with the general electorate in the year 2026, let alone in 2028. And I say this because I was looking around, because I kept seeing these clips taken from a town hall she did with the mayor of, I forget which city. I could not, for the life of me, find the full town hall. However, I did find 20 minutes of it uploaded on YouTube. And I figured, you know what? Let's take a look at it. Let's see how did she do at this particular town hall.
The housing units here in Cincinnati, the good news is we're growing. For the first time in a generation, our population is growing. You would expect our housing stock to stay congruent with that growth, but because we're such an old historic city, we've actually lost housing stock in that 10-year period. So more people are living here with fewer housing units. And this council has been just so intentional about creating a $100 million affordable housing trust fund and also changing our zoning to legalize more housing units. But if we had partnership from the president and from Congress to really invest into this issue, we could fix it. So that's why I'm so optimistic that leaders like you were talking about.
Yeah, we gotta get there. But I think the thing, if you decide that the threat to the middle class is the existential threat. And I know, as a CIA officer, when something's a threat, you are...
Man, I love when my Democratic candidate starts talking about her experience as a CIA officer. I wonder if her experience as a CIA officer prepared her for town halls.
Raise that threat, you defend against that threat, you prioritize that. So if we make it a priority...
Who would have been able to figure out, without CIA training, that if there is a threat, you prioritize defending against that threat? Only the CIA could have come up with that type of play. No one else. Only the CIA. They're the only ones.
We can do it. We're still the United States of America. We're still capable of incredible things. But we gotta have our priorities straight. And right now, with all the chaos, with all the back and forth, most private sector companies can't make real decisions when they don't know if the tariff is 18% or 8% or what's gonna happen tomorrow. So, to be continued.
Let's hear from you guys. So this stage looks really fancy.
Yes, I'm aware that the sound is terrible.
So this is not a fancy event, so just raise your hand. If you have a question, I'll call on you.
Why is it in a barn? You just heard him say it, because this isn't a fancy event. This isn't an event for the rich and the powerful. This is an event for you, the common people. And we assume you all live in barns. So we wanted to make sure you were comfortable. This is the Democrat, like the mainstream establishment Democrat aesthetic that they adopt when they're trying to appeal to just everyday Americans, Because it's like what conservatives do when they put on like a cowboy hat for the first time and some cowboy boots and go down to like stump in Texas. Like they're all hat, no cattle. It's the same thing. They're just doing it in the Democrat way.
We've got mics running around the crowd. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hold on 1 second. We'll get you a mic.
Hello. Welcome. First of all, I'm always concerned about the role of money in politics, as many of us are, because it plays an important role behind the scenes. So I'm wondering, with the new majority Democrat...
Just want to point out, the woman asking this question is this woman right here. The lady with like the gray hair, bit of a hunched back, like she's the one asking this question.
Organization. What is your view on taking money from PayPal?
So I think let's talk about the first one, the big picture. The view of politicians.
Like, I gotta be honest, when you're getting that question from this particular demographic, we're done. Like the entire question of whether or not mainstream Democrats can continue to accept money from AIPAC or AIPAC aligned groups or, you know, groups backed by the Israeli government, like we're done. Like the conversation is over. The Democratic Party has left all of these folks who've been stumping around defending Israel's genocide for the last several years. Yeah, like, you've lost the wine moms, but you've also lost the wine grandmas. Like, you've lost the oldest and most sympathetic to your cause demographic.
Both sides of the aisle is not good, right? And the higher you up are on the federal level, the lower your approval ratings, right? The mayor probably has a way better approval rating than anyone in Congress, and well deserved. And a huge part of that is that people believe they are enriching themselves when they get these jobs, and that they are taking and casting votes for the wrong reasons because of who wants them. And that spans the gamut from.
Yeah, exactly. Dems lost the Barbaras and the Debras. You need at least one of those demographics to keep chugging along. They got neither.
Special interests across the board, right? The big one that I've seen close up is the pharmaceutical industry. They literally donate to your campaign so that they buy time with you when important votes come up. And man, when we voted to freeze insulin at $35, they just went from house to house to house, house office to house office to house office, saying, okay, we supported you, here's what we expect, here's why this is terrible, here's why you can't vote to cap the price of insulin at $35.
That seems like something that should be incredibly illegal. What the thing you are just describing right now should not be a legal practice in the United States, where the pharmaceutical industry can just spend money on a lobbyist to go office to office and basically tell you what you're allowed to vote for. Seems hopelessly corrupt.
Would you like your American flag with a side of American flag?
You know, I'm thinking I would like my American flag with, instead of a side of American flag, I think I would like it with perhaps a side of $100 bills in an envelope, hidden from view, preferably taped underneath the table where we can subtly make the exchange. That is lobbying. Yes, that is lobbying. Yeah, exactly, Dragonfly. This is the only, like, it's not even the full town hall. Like, this is the only one of the full of this event that I can find, which is very weird. And I think it indicates exactly how terribly this event went.
Now, I don't take corporate PAC money. So they just didn't. So they just skip my office, right? Because they believe it's like a transactional relationship. And imagine that happens.
They believe it's a transactional relationship, like all lobbyists do. Oh, it's so weird. It's almost like we should get money out of politics or something.
On a whole bunch of issues when it comes to corporate PAC money. When it comes to just special groups, special interest groups, lobbying groups, they go from the beer wholesalers to issue groups to the whole thing. I think Americans have.
Just as an FYI, I do want to say she's pretty full of shit on this one. Like, oh, I don't take money from AIPAC.
The decor of the town hall screams, "Don't forget which country we're in because of the money I've received from foreign governments."
Well, you know, I with Hungary in the news so much lately, I almost thought this was Hungary. Viktor Orban's Hungary. But no, in the past, Elissa Slotkin has received millions of dollars from AIPAC, from J Street, from many different, DMFI is one of the big ones as well. And yeah, Democratic Majority for Israel. So maybe she's just saying, I'm not taking AIPAC money anymore, but like, I don't know, you've taken like $4.5 million from this group of lobbyist organizations that are all lobbying on, by and large, the same points. Money cannot buy you charisma. That's true, but it is interesting to see how utterly unprepared for this question she is, considering going into this, what she knows she has put out publicly.
The right to support those groups and do whatever they want. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them. I don't personally take money from APAC. I haven't in many years. But they and every other organization have an ecosystem in Washington that they're doing things.
Also, wait a minute. Just out of curiosity here, I'm wondering, I think her last election was 2020, was it 2024? I think so, because I think she's up for election in 2030. And I think because she's a senator, it's 6 years, so 2024 makes sense. I'm wondering if she got money from AIPAC in 2024, and that's why she's like, oh, I haven't taken money from AIPAC in years. And I'm wondering if those years are 2 years.
In DC, I can guarantee J Street in DC is just as ghoulish of a lobbying street as every other one.
It's true. There should be no lobbying streets. I agree. Also,
even though I'm over at GG, I've kept this sub here going for 60 months wild.
Hot diggity damn. Thank you so much, Punky Gal. And Saki Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs as well.
There's plenty of groups like them that do the very same thing, a Pakistani American group or whatever group. But I think what leadership is, in my mind, is about decisions. And so every politician has to make their own decisions. I think the one thing to watch that's kind of coming on the up right now, if you haven't seen it, is we've been dealing with many years trying to ban members of Congress and their spouses from trading stocks.
Man, it's so interesting that you got a question about AIPAC money, and instead you're talking about banning members of Congress from trading stocks. That's a completely different, unrelated point. It's great. I love the idea of Congress being barred from trading stocks, but like, that's a bare minimum kind of thing. That's like the kind of thing that should have been illegal day one of Congress, when Congress was made. But, all right.
I'm on the Armed Services Committee. You get into a classified briefing and you can walk out and start trading stocks. Well, you better believe you get special information that the average person doesn't get. And then and we saw this during COVID, right? We saw a bunch of COVID briefings before COVID was like truly upon us. And all kinds of members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans, were trading stocks healthcare-wise, right afterwards. The newest thing that I just put in, and the younger people in the audience may have already seen it, is that I'm deeply worried about are these things called prediction markets. Okay, have you seen these things? Right? So it's basically, you can bet on anything. You can bet on sports. You can bet on whether, the Reds are going to win or lose.
Again, I just view this as flailing around because you can't answer the question, you know? You're now talking about like prediction markets, and like, yeah, you should be barred from like doing that, but also not related to the question of accepting political donations from organizations that want you to support like the settler colonialism of Israel.
Today, you can bet on anything you want.
They're gonna win. Oh God, they're going to win in the future.
I think in the future. Okay, I was going to say I feel like today maybe they didn't. But you can bet on whether you're going to take action in Venezuela tomorrow, whether the president's going to. And what we just saw was dozens and dozens of people who clearly had insider information, placing anonymous bets, making over $100,000 or way more on whether we were going to go to war with Iran.
I just saw the headline where they just had 2 new accounts were posted on these prediction sites about the ceasefire, just like hours before it actually came into play.
Right. So a week ago, I did a bipartisan bill with
Stop the stupidity. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Very much appreciated. Thank you so goddamn much.
Young from Indiana, right? The Midwesterners still kind of get along, the Republicans and Democratic senators. We did Fox News together about banning anyone in the federal government, whether you're a career civilian as I was or a political person like Donald Trump, from placing bets on anything, particularly issues of war and peace. So, to be continued, but until we get a handle on these issues of money and politics, you're just not gonna have people feeling faith that people are taking votes and casting votes on behalf of people as opposed to interest groups.
I really applaud your position, Senator. AIPAC doesn't really invest in local races, so I don't take AIPAC money, and I wouldn't in either instance. But I think your broader point is just restoring trust in government. When we have a leader who is
okay, like, it is so difficult for me to watch this and see them say things like, well, I would never take AIPAC money. I just wouldn't. And then to immediately pivot to talking about trust in government. You just described how these organizations operate to, like, buy time from elected officials. You just described that. And so what bothers me is then to, like, I don't know, to essentially, without thinking there's any relationship between trust in government and the fact that these major corporations and lobbying conglomerates are buying your time and taking your time away from your constituents. That's related to why people don't trust government.
Genocide, and we have a leader that is more interested in letting people or obfuscating, more interested in dividing us. The cascading results of that are a lack of trust in government, not just at the federal level, but even here at the local level. And so I think your principles stand, particularly in the face of that, is so critically important. Let's go
Senator.
Popcorn here. Yeah,
Senator.
go ahead, Xavier. Mike is on the way. He's got his question written up. A good Xavier student is prepared.
So basically, going back to what was said over here, you have not taken money from AIPAC, but pro-Israel lobbies and their donors have spent $4.5 million on their campaigns. But I do have.
Oh, she thought she escaped that last question. She thought she escaped it, but it keeps coming back. It's like watching Jaws, except I'm rooting for the shark. Just da-dun, 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 da-dun. Here he comes.
Question not related to that. So I'm curious why left-leaning media, I guess mainstream media, and establishment Democrats are spending energy attacking influencers like Hassan Piker, as has been in the news lately.
See, this is why I dedicated an entire segment to why it's a big deal that Ezra Klein even is going out there in the New York Times, basically being like, well, I don't agree with Hassan Piker on everything, but, like, he's not the devil. Like, he's fine, and he's tapped into what, like, people actually agree with in the Democratic base. And, like, it's because it is emblematic of the fact that us on the left, us socialists, us pro-working class people are winning. Like, look at her defensive stance here. She's, like, squared up at this boy. Looks like she's about to, like, drop just the worst diss track you've ever heard. And I don't know. I think it's I think it is telling. Yeah, she's not happy that she's getting this question, but she's getting this question because the establishment Democrats are losing this particular civil war within the Democratic Party.
And why the Democratic establishment is just, like, immune to criticizing Democratic leadership, like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who are some of the main drivers in the reason that the Democratic Party is at its lowest approval rating in history.
One of the reasons I really like this question, and why I hope it gets used more and more and more in town halls against establishment candidates, is in large part because it effectively inverts the typical relationship that establishment Democrats have, which is typically it's, do you condemn Hassan Piker? Do you condemn Hamas? I want to live in this world that is fighting and struggling to be born, where instead people at the town halls show up and ask, do you condemn Chuck Schumer? Do you condemn Hakeem Jeffries? These people who have so weighed down the entire Democratic Party under their nonsense conservative ideas, who have effectively tried to weaponize the political equivalent of curling up in the fetal position as like their main tactic. Do you condemn them? I like this new world where the Democratic base is effectively asking Democrats who are wanting their vote or wanting them to turn out or wanting their support, like, well, as a condition for my support, like, do you condemn Chuck Schumer? Do you condemn Hakeem Jeffries? Do you condemn the establishment that is so intractable?
Well, a couple of things. First, just to correct the record, I'm not sure what you're referring to on non-AIPAC, but the Israel lobby. If you're equating Israel lobby to Jews, I got a problem with that. And that just like you wouldn't say,
like, I'm sorry, well, if you're equating the Israeli lobby to Jews, I don't like that. Nothing in what that young man said had anything to do with that.
Iranians, whatever happens, the Iranian government does is what Iranian Americans believe. I think it's really important, especially now, to make a distinction between the Israeli government and the choices that they're making and the average Jew, okay? And Jewish people who donate to campaigns. In terms of criticizing.
Just as an FYI, just looking back at some past donations for Elissa Slotkin, she got about $280,000 from J Street from 2017 to 2022. Yeah, she's gotten a not insignificant amount of money from various Israel-aligned super PACs, and one of the ways, and I want to maybe pull this up for you guys here. So if you go to AIPAC's website, they have an AIPAC political portal powered by AIPAC PAC, okay? And so candidates will see that you personally contributed to them through this site, helping their campaign while strengthening AIPAC's ties to them as well. So basically what this does, what their portal does that they've used in the last few elections as well, is they will essentially be like, here are the different candidates we support. And as you can see, the very first button you can click is for $7,000. And you can just scroll down and see all of the different candidates that they are endorsing. And this endorsement comes with the infrastructure to funnel money to all of these candidates. And this money isn't necessarily from AIPAC. It's from AIPAC's donors. And so this becomes another way to kind of try and launder political donations that would have traditionally gone through AIPAC. But yeah, as you can see, they have a lot of different candidates that they have endorsed. Oh, look, Dan Crenshaw. How about them apples? Got a lot of different candidates they support in the upcoming midterm elections. You know, it's fun stuff. Oh, look, it's Mike Lawler. Oh, Anna Paula Luna. So cool. Nancy Mace. Wow, it's a regular who's who. And every single one of these candidates, you can click a button to donate $7,000 to them, or $3,500, depending on which state they're in and the election laws in the state.
We're not criticizing, again, I can't represent, there's not like some Oz behind the curtain of establishment Democrats. I can only represent myself.
I mean, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
AIPAC's PAC portal must be powered by AIPAC.
What a revelation. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. And also, I can't speak for anyone else in the Democratic Party. I could just speak for myself. Bitch, you are in those closed door meetings with the rest of the party. What are you talking about? Of course you could talk about that. Of course you could talk about other members of the party and what they think. The cloak and dagger shit that Democrats do never ceases to amaze me.
And when it comes to talking about anybody who comes into our world, and Hassan Piker was just in Michigan.
Yeah, the Oz behind the curtain is just capitalism. It's just capitalist exploitation. Always has been.
Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Senate that the caucus that I sit in. The only way that I know how to get through, is certainly as a Democrat representing a state that just voted for Trump, is you gotta call balls and strikes. You gotta be able to call.
What is this answer? I'm gonna back up because this answer has been so bonkers.
Again, I can't represent, there's not like some Oz behind the curtain of establishment Democrats. I can only represent myself. And when it comes to talking about anybody who comes into our world, and Hassan Piker was just in Michigan, Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Senate that the caucus that I sit in. The only way that I know how to get through is certainly as.
Thanks for describing who Chuck Schumer is. That you mentioned Chuck Schumer. He is in charge. He's in charge of the Democrats in the Senate. That is all I have to say about him.
A Democrat representing a state that just voted for Trump is you got to call balls and strikes. You got to be able to call out the people that you don't like on the other side, but you also got to be able to call out things when you see it on your side. So let's take leadership, right? Chuck Schumer. It's our job.
You gotta call balls and strikes. You know, the job of the umpire, the most hated role in baseball.
Perfect.
Socket Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. The one thing I know is you gotta make yourself the most hated son of a bitch in all of politics. That's the only way to succeed.
To be a leader. But I have said for years, including when Joe Biden was president, that we desperately need a new generation of leadership.
I've always said we need new leadership. The issue that I have with this is like, where is the substantive criticism of the political positions of this current leadership? Because what I worry about from this particular type of rhetoric is the idea that like what I think they want to do, which is to lull people into this idea that, well, the only problem is that Chuck Schumer is old. Chuck Schumer's just old. If we just get the old out of there, we can bring in someone new, hip, fresh, who has all of the same political positions as Chuck Schumer, you know? I believe Chuck Schumer already has kind of like a protege, like a mini young Chuck Schumer being, waiting in the wings, as it were. And like, I forget what his name is, but this is just, I tire of this flaccid critique of leadership and power. If you think it's time for a new generation of leadership, explain why. Why, like, people love Bernie Sanders. People aren't looking at Bernie Sanders and saying, we need a new generation of leadership. I mean, outside of the fact that he's old and they want to make sure there's continuing Democrats who support the socialist project. But, like, what about Schumer's positions do you think mean that he needs to get out?
And I think, to me, that's part of the reason I'm here. And I will say I'm 49, which is, you're way younger than me, right? So to you, I'm like, a grandma. But I call myself a summer chicken, not a spring chicken. But to me, the only way that we're going to be able to move forward is if we have a different generation that just thinks differently and works harder and just conceives of their.
That thinks differently in what capacity? In what substantive political difference?
Service in a different way. And while there are many people I serve with in Congress who have been there since I was in high school, okay? Sometimes before then, sometimes when I was in elementary school. And they've given their life to service, the institutions and the world we live in have changed. And we need leadership to change with it. So I don't have a problem saying that, I'll say it to you. And I think now the question is, okay, well, once we're over this kind of like, well, he said, she said, what are we gonna do about it, right? What are we gonna actually do to make sure that we can like fight what's going on, the takeover of our democracy from the White House down? I'm interested in doing something about it, not just yelling across the internet. And so to me, it's part of the reason I'm here, is to support leaders and to try and have conversations outside of Washington where we can actually get to something practical and real, as opposed to just fighting amongst ourselves, which by the way, the Republicans are thrilled to have us do.
I really.
What I find fascinating is that the conversations that they seek to have are never conversations that challenge like their views of power, or like, you know, they aren't substantive conversations. They're not conversations to actually change her mind. It's just a way for her to like be able to say, look at me, I'm listening, I'm learning, I'm growing. But like nothing that would substantially challenge her worldview is allowed to really exist in these conversations.
I want to add on to that point because I couldn't agree more about a new generation of leadership and just more younger leaders in high-profile positions like the one that you have. Cincinnati is a perfect story for that. 50 years ago, a house cost about $75,000, and it constituted just a fraction of your income.
I do have to say, I'm not a huge fan of this setup that they have, where they have like the mayor of Cincinnati and like a senator like chit-chatting. It really just feels like power talking to power and like kind of a circle jerk for them, while all these poor people have to sit around and watch, and I don't like that very much.
Now a house in Cincinnati is roughly $400,000, and it is just a huge portion of your income. And so folks with that lived experience of understanding the real challenges, who haven't paid off their home, who want to ultimately own a home, is so critically important when making these big national policy decisions. When I talk to young people, they don't believe that they'll have enough money to own a home or own a car. And having leaders understand that is critically important. And of course, having leaders that can.
But like, I hate this politician speak. Like, I'm convinced that like 90% of Zoran Mamdani's appeal was the fact that he could honestly and forthrightly talk about the issues in a way where it's not just like, well, politicians need to understand that people are struggling financially. That doesn't mean anything. It means something to say, well, like 35% of people in my district don't feel like they're going to be able to buy a car, let alone a house. Because of that material reality for these people, we are going to adopt X policy. This policy will seek to put an end to this particular problem in this particular way. And that is genuinely what gets responses from people. Because the people who are struggling, they don't give a single rat's ass about the valuable discussions that Democrats have. They don't give a single goddamn about these people sitting on a stage doing some political wankery, right? And like, this kind of shit is why so many people lose faith in politics. It's empty rhetoric. You gotta bring like actual policies. It's photo op nonsense. Well, yeah, it is. And you can tell that because the second she got like a question that actually like rattled her cage, she was woefully underprepared to answer it. Woefully underprepared. Like she was stuttering like crazy.
And take on the big tech bros and hold them accountable for how their technology, social media, but now AI can be weaponized against young people, I think is also critical.
Yeah, and I would just add on the AI issue, right? It's pretty hard to have the flip phone generation regulating AI, or in this case, not regulating AI, right? And I think that's part of I think every day I experience a whole bunch of new and emerging tech issues with people who, didn't really love like having to get email. And so I think it's not that it's impossible to understand if you didn't grow up with it. Very few of us grew up with AI, that's very, very new. But it is important when we're starting to think about what the left and right limits of this new tech ought to be. And by the way, if we were healthy as a country, we'd be talking about this in Washington 24/7. We'd be talking about this new emerging technologies, how to put left and right limits.
I gotta be honest, it's not a difficult conversation. I'm just gonna like throw this up for you guys. Ooh, is Blue Sky down? I was gonna use it for something. Indeed, a photo op, like this article about the event, which is just a stream of photos. Yeah, I found that because I was looking for the actual event, and all I found were pictures from it. Because I was confused, because I found this video, and there are tons of cameras in this room, but apparently they were all taking pictures. They were not, in fact, taking video, or at least none that they felt it compelled to post. Blue Sky has shard itself. Well, that sucks. I would love... Yeah, how about this? How about this, huh? This'll do.
Since Microsoft started constructing its $3.3 billion AI data center in Mount Pleasant in late 2023, Donald Briggs and his neighbors have gotten used to the noise.
So you're not anti-data center?
No, we're not anti-data center.
That is, until earlier this month, when a new sound started invading their homes.
That's just a high-pitched drone sound.
I can hear it inside my house, and that's what concerns me.
This is where, as far as our ears can tell, the sound is coming from. Microsoft's project website says that these data centers here behind me on the southern part of the campus will be operational later this year.
Briggs says he could cope with noisy construction because he knew it was temporary. But as the first center gets close to completion...
So you're concerned that this noise could be more long-term?
Oh, definitely. And louder.
Microsoft right now has plans for more than 15 data centers in Mount Pleasant. In a statement to 12 News, a Microsoft spokesperson says they're aware of the noise concerns raised about their Mount Pleasant facility, and they're investigating the root cause and hope to share an update soon.
We never thought that the data center would make noise. How about this one? There we go. This is from New Jersey. This is just forever. Like if a data center is built next to your house, you're fucked. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that this is a pretty easy topic to understand, actually. I think it's a pretty easy thing to understand, hey, AI data centers are engaging in the same kinds of risky loaning and lending with our financial institutions, like what preceded the 2008 mortgage collapse. Hey, that's bad. We should put a stop to it. Or... for example, hey, these giant facilities that cost hundreds of billions of dollars, it turns out they make high-pitched droning sounds 24/7 and utterly destroy the ability of people to live near them. I think that's a pretty easy to understand thing. You could also talk about, hey, it turns out these machines are committing mass theft. Maybe that should be illegal. Or, hey, turns out these machines that commit mass theft in order to operate are, in fact, also wrong 45% of the time. Or, hey, these machines that do mass theft and then spit out lies constantly and are mathematically proven to be incapable of telling the truth all the time because they are not, in fact, capable of discerning what is and is not truth because they're slop engines. They are engines essentially just vomiting out words that they think are statistically likely responses you're going to want. That's it. It's not magic. It's not really that cool. And I don't think this is that difficult to understand. And I also don't think it's that difficult to understand that, like, oh, hey, the people who are engaging with these large language model bots becoming unhinged from reality and like killing themselves and their families. Like, there was just a story the other day about a guy who used ChatGPT to like plan his mass shooting at FSU. Like, I don't know. This isn't difficult for me to understand. It shouldn't be difficult for someone older than me to understand. This is bad. And the technology fundamentally doesn't work and doesn't drive profit. So, like, the only people making bank off of this are, like, the speculative investors, and they're gonna start running for the hills with their bags of money soon.
And 3 days a week instead of like Greenland or whatever else we're talking about.
Senator. Anybody on this side? Yes, I saw your hand first. Go ahead. Our mic runner is potentially coming. There we go.
What keeps me up at night was the conversation that you started having about affordability and the middle class. We have a daughter who has her first big girl job and her first big girl apartment, and she said to me about 4 weeks ago, "Mom, after I buy gas, after I pay my rent, after I pay my expenses, I don't have anything left. I cannot figure out how to do this. I cannot figure out how to save." And particularly on the federal level, there's two things that I would love to see. And the first has to be a conversation about wages. For so long, we have tied wages to this idea. We've got the one side with the minimum wage, which we know is a poverty level wage. And the other side, the other thing that we hear so much about are like CEO wages, which are out of this world, right? And so most of the people, their wages are set and tied to this. Well, we're not paying minimum wage, but they're still tied to a poverty wage. And that's why people feel so squeezed. And what I would love to see on the federal level is more talk about a living wage and affordability to get away from being tied to poverty wage. And the second thing that I hear and that keeps me up is this idea that the FMLA was really great, but it is about job protection. And what good is it if you need to step away to take you had a baby or to take care of an elderly parent, but your wages aren't protected? And so I would love to see some caregiving leave legislation at the federal level as another way to help people with this wage problem that we're having.
Great questions. Let's start with wages. First of all, when I was coming to Ohio, I'm doing my research. I about fell off my chair when I saw the Ohio minimum wage. That was shocking. I mean, even Michigan, we're right next door, and ours is almost double what your minimum wage was. So I think you're particularly feeling it in a place where you haven't raised the minimum wage in a long time. Number one, it shouldn't take an active legislation to move minimum wage. It should be key to inflation. When other things go up, and it could be in a healthy year, 1%, 2% a year. Right now, if you can't keep pace with inflation, you are getting poorer and poorer with the same wages, right? So 100% on minimum wage. But I think there's a bunch of other things that we can do to get at the kind of corporate greed side of the equation, which is, you all know, because Ohio does it too, that you often give incentives for companies to come to build in Ohio. I know it can be controversial sometimes. You invite the private sector in, you want those jobs. Okay, if you are a big corporation and you are getting tax incentives and then turn around and don't pay people a living wage, and then those people have to be on Medicaid and on SNAP, but you are making the taxpayers pay twice. They paid the incentives, right, to bring you here, and then now we're paying for the social programs to keep people afloat. So my theory of the case and the bill that we're working on is, if you don't pay a living wage with good benefits so that people can live above the poverty line healthy here, then you qualify for zero tax benefits.
Like, I get so angry I get so angry because on the one hand, this is a decent policy, on the surface of it. But where what I hear when I hear Elissa Slotkin say this is not the bold policy making that I think she wants people to perceive it as. What I hear instead is, well, we have to pay people just enough to live above the poverty line. And the other part of that is, I don't know that this would do anything to affect companies that already routinely underpay their workers, because those companies, what they do is, places like Walmart, they have benefits. There are benefit packages. There's healthcare, etc. But you have to work over a certain number of hours in order to get them. And what the companies do is they just don't give you enough hours to be able to qualify for those packages. And so in theory, they have these programs that seem like they make it you can live by working here. But then they just turn everyone into gig workers. They turn everyone into part-time workers. And in turn, all these companies wiggle out of actually having to pay living wages. Instead, what winds up happening is people have to commodify more and more of their free time to work second or third jobs, or have their side hustles, etc. All of this so that they can avoid paying you, for your labor, the labor that they rely on for their profit. Get rid of the means testing for assistance and income caps on disabled people. True. It just seems to me that rather than focusing on the wonderful benefits package that you could get if you just worked for 30 years for Walmart, instead, just support Medicare for all. Medicare for all. Everyone gets healthcare. Boom. These universal policies are good because they stop companies from being able to weasel out of them, which is what they do right now. And you shouldn't be settling for a bill that is trying to strong-arm corporations into doing the bare minimum. You should be demanding a lovely, decent life. You should be going out there and saying, I don't want to just make slightly above the poverty line. I want to be able to live a life of dignity, where I can afford to have a weekend where I set up my easel and my paints and I paint the picture just for the hell of it, where I can go take a walk with my family and have a picnic because I have the time to do what I would. And right now, so many people just don't have access to that. So many people just don't even have access to a goddamn park. So anyway, I get infuriated by this type of response. You know what? Okay, hot take. My rule of thumb, everyone in this country should make enough money so that if you're an adult and you want to have a Magic the Gathering and a Warhammer 40K hobby, you can afford to do it, okay? That should be our baseline expectation. You can play Warhammer and you can play Magic the Gathering on the lowest income bracket of society. That should be the goal, okay? Paper and plastic crack, are you insane? Yeah, I know. Look, that's what I'm saying. A wealth of riches for us all. Spicy take? Look, if we tax the billionaires, we can do it.
Things that we can do on things like stock buybacks and other things that affect it. But, there's no getting around the fact that CEOs make 10,000 times what their average employee makes. It's totally different than even 50 years ago. But I think the tax code is where to get at those corporations. And I think the other thing is, tax the wealthy who own the corporations. Just raise the corporate tax rate and then do cool shit that benefits everybody instead of just the corporations with their tax benefits to lure them there. God damn it. Piece of it is, again, I think about in the national security world, when 9/11 happened, right?
What?
The threat came home and we were attacked.
Why are you talking about 9/11 in response to this question? Elissa Slotkin is so much worse at this than I ever would have. This is like, I think the longest I've ever watched her like talk. And I gotta be honest, this is baffling to me. This is utterly baffling to me. Unironic Lois Griffin running for office repeating 9/11.
Think about how the country changed and reacted and mobilized, sometimes in not very good ways, right?
What do you mean sometimes in not very good ways? It's like universally, all of the ways we changed after 9/11 were bad. I cannot think of a single positive change that happened as a result of 9/11. Not a goddamn one.
But we understood it as something of an attack. That's what I'm proposing.
The worms are back. The worms are back.
Guys, I think the RFK Jr. worms have gotten into the water supply in DC. I think it's just a matter of time before, you know, any of your political faves just start just start leaking their brains. Yeah, 9/11 was understood as something of an attack. I am very intelligent.
On the issue that your daughter is going through. Because she did everything right, I'm guessing. She has very politically engaged parents, if you're here. You could be doing anything else right now on a beautiful day. So we were taught that the American dream is you put your head down, you work hard, you play by the rules, you do well, and your kids do better. If that is not happening, that's an emergency. And we can do a lot of things at the federal level when there's an emergency. So that to me are a couple of ideas of how.
Look, I was gonna just save this as like a random thing I bring up in between segments, but you know what? I feel like the people watching this segment deserve this this bit of knowledge as well. Let me pull this up here for you guys. Speaking of RFK Jr.'s brain worms. No, Blue Sky's down. Damn it. That's right. Okay. I lied. None of you get to know what this is. Okay, I'll have mercy on you. Apparently, RFK Jr. stole a dead raccoon's penis in order to examine later on a family trip. So, that's where we're at. Was it the raccoon penis? Yes, it was a raccoon penis. Is it true? Well, it's probably about as true as the whale head story, which I want to remind you guys, in the book, I believe a book written by one of his children, she recounts a time where RFK Jr. Dragged his entire family down to a beach where there was a dead whale, cut off its head, strapped it to the top of his car with his children screaming and crying inside. And because of the size of the head, it had to be strapped through the open car windows of the minivan, which meant that the viscera from inside the whale leaked into their car, and the children had to wear like ponchos for the ride back to the car because there was just whale viscera raining down on them. You know, I don't think RFK Jr. is doing all right with his whale head and raccoon penis.
You get at the wage issue and the corporate greed issue.
Absolutely. Any other questions from this section? Yes, since you've been so excited about Michigan.
This must be a very
guys, that's not even talking about the time he killed a baby bear and then left it in Central Park to try and frame bicyclists for it. That's also a real thing that happened.
Like in there we go. I mean,
and we have a cottage up in northern Michigan.
There we go.
And actually, that's why one of my concerns is the environment. That, you know, I don't think all of the things that Trump has gotten rid of, it's probably going to take us years to get back to some of the things, try and restore some care to the environment.
Yeah, so let's talk about where we are. First of all, we're glad that you still have your cabin up north. The thing that I think luckily we share as a Great Lakes region, whether you're a Democrat, Independent, or Republican, is love of the Great Lakes. And I don't know that I've ever said this publicly, but when I came into the Senate,
you get to pick out your office and you're a freshman. And I walked into this office and it was empty except for one picture of the Great Lakes Basin. And I'm like, this must be a sign. And it was Jake Vance's old office. I'm in Jake's old office.
Haha, what a good time. Well, I guess one good thing came of watching that, which is that I'm no longer worried that Elissa Slotkin is going to have the juice to be able to run for president. I think we can confidently cross her name off the large list of people who want to throw their names into the ring. I don't think that she has the juice. She does not have the charisma. She does not have the ability to make it work. Like, nah. She's another Kamala. She's worse than Kamala. She's Chuck Schumer light. And I think that the Democratic Party has moved so far beyond this kind of outdated thinking that it seems hilariously out of touch to me. Like, you cannot look at the No Kings protests and see like what those wine moms are bringing out onto the street, the kind of energy, the kind of rhetoric. You cannot tell me that like those people are excited for Elissa Slotkin. Sample of data center noise. Thank you.
And scenery was. I'm going to show you what this looks like in a way that's pretty easy to digest, and we don't need seismology software or anything like that. I'm amplifying this by a little bit so we could see a little bit more down here in the spectrum. And to give you an idea of how loud the data center is, this is a car door slamming very close to the microphone. So this that I'm selecting here is about the extent of what a human being can hear in the audio spectrum. And so all of these whines and general industrial noises are hanging out around negative 30 dB in this recording. And so like the lowest of rumbles is peaking out at like negative 28. And then if we go down to infrasound, the infrasound that you can't hear is like 10 decibels louder than that. Another sample I took was from a park near an elementary school in a residential area about a mile away. This in particular is a great example of how higher frequency sounds are dampened by distance much more than lower frequency or infrasonic ones. This video is playing through a sound system with subwoofers, or even if you're wearing some good headphones, you will very quickly realize how frankly uninhabitable this noise makes the
This is a mile away.
Entire neighborhood.
Jesus
This
Christ.
rumbling is no good and would make your life utterly miserable. And then
yeah, no, I can't. Yeah, great video. I'm not familiar with this content creator, but here you go, folks. Go check him out. Good shit. Thank you for sharing, Coder Joe. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs as well. Very much appreciated. All right. All that being said, folks, if you want to get better candidates, if you want to get involved, both on the local level, the state level, the national level, you gotta go to your local Democratic meetings, okay? Join your local Dems, make them more progressive, make them leftists, make them more pro-working class, okay? We need to make it happen. The only way we make it happen is by organizing and by showing up. You cannot simply know what good policies are. You have to communicate them to other people in your area. You have to make it real for your city in whatever ways you can. You know, there are different statewide initiatives to have publicly funded healthcare. You can get behind one of those. You can get behind statewide efforts to get rid of Citizens United in your state via the Montana Plan initiative. The Transparent Election Initiative has a Montana plan that they are going to try and implement first in Montana and then elsewhere across the country. They have the framework available for people and for different organizations in different states to take it and run with it. Why not make that a core component of your local Democratic Party? You can do that by showing up. So I encourage you guys, show up at your local Dems, show up at your local DSA, organize with working class people in your community, organize with local unions, with local groups, bring them all together, make a coalition of organizations in your city, your town, and like build up that power base and then take that power to the state level too. We can have an effective DSA in every part of this country. We can have a pro-working class party in our local and state elections. We can make it happen, okay? So go get involved. If you don't know where to start, join our Discord, reach out to Gamergy for help with your local DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help with your local Democrats, and if joining the Discord is not your cup of tea for whatever reason, you can typically find one or both of them over here on riverboat.gg. We want to help onboard you and make this easy for you because we know it can be kind of scary. And so we want to give you guys kind of that on-ramp to getting involved. So very important, do that. Also, folks, if you got anything out of this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and consider leaving a comment. Comments longer than 8 words really help in the algorithm for whatever reason. And last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is comfortable. It is sexy. It is elegant. And also it is non-tucking lingerie. So go check it out. Link down in the description. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's